How's it going, everybody? This is Terrace Black here with my buddy Mark Miller over here to the left. Um, yeah, this is kind of like a weird, not weird, but I guess just, you know, off the beaten path kind of video. Something I wanted to talk about for a while now, but I've just kind of been lacking on it and kind of want to get more into getting back into the groove of like talking about topics adjacent to playing Lorcana or card games and, things going on in Lorcana, outside of, Ruby Amethyst or even some of the drama stuff, just kind of more like nuanced topics. Because it's nice to be able to talk about different things in the community. So today I just kind of want to have a quick discussion on anxiety and something that I think a lot of people might deal with and probably think that maybe they're one of the few that are dealing with it. I think it's something that's easy for you to feel like, I'm the only one like feeling this way or going through this. And then, all it takes is conversations to realize, oh, okay, so I'm definitely not alone in this. And I've had some moments like that myself. Um, so my history with anxiety is something I've kind of always had uh, in my life. But coming from playing Magic, I never really had to deal with anxiety much, just because the nature of how I played Magic was primarily Commander, and it wasn't even like competitive Commander. It was just meeting friends, kind of grouping up, playing games, and I had just so much love and had so much fun with that game that I could you know, head to the card shop knowing that I might not win a single game all night and be completely fine with it, just because the experience and being with my friends was the core reason why I was going there anyways. And there's still a lot of that I have with Lorcana, but because I came into Lorcana specifically to be competitive, to get into the competitive scene of a card game, um, you still have a lot of those moments of having fun, and after everything, I do end up having more fun than anything else. But definitely, coming into this game was the first time where I really started dealing with anxiety. Leading up to tournaments and the day of tournaments, or even like just during games. Um, and Mark, have you dealt with any of this?
Oh, very much so. My anxiety goes back even further than yours, it sounds like. I mean, I played sports all growing up, and anxiety, like, I know, even as young as, like, looking back on it now, probably even as young as, like, maybe 10 or something like that, playing baseball. Um, like, I would just freeze at the plate. Like, at a certain point, it just, like,
Mm,
became a problem for me. um, and I just thought it was normal, and to some degree it is, right? Everybody does deal with anxiety. It's just at different extremes. I think I'm no psychologist, but it kind of seems like it, the more and more open people get and the more I talk to friends about it and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it was like, seemed manageable for the majority of my life. Like, oh, this is just kind of normal. The butterflies that people talk about, or
mhm.
nervousness that people get when they're about to do something in front of other people or whatever. But uh, the older and older I got, it became like almost debilitating at a certain point in my life, like around the time I was maybe 20 or something like that. It just got so bad that I was struggling to even like get into work, because I just would feel so anxious. And
Mm.
luckily my employer was really open and let me do what I needed to do to work through it. I started seeing a doctor, and now I'm on medication for it, and it helps dramatically, but it never goes away entirely. That's for sure. So yeah, it's been a major factor in my life for a long time now.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I mean, glad that, you've been able to kind of persevere through that. And I mean, if we look at Lorcana, it's like even with that, like you've been able to get, and have so much success and be able to do so well. and thankfully, I've done, I think decent as well. Um, I think something that I ran into that I never felt before in my life was, so after like set two, when I really started making a name for myself and was doing like really well, there kind of ended up being this newfound like pressure like I was putting on myself that like I've never had to deal with before. Because now it's like, okay, I've done really well. I've kind of established myself, at least in like the Florida community. So like people are aware of me. And so they're expecting, certain type of results out of me. And I think, and I let that bubble up a lot internally. And then when it came to that first, what was it, like CCS, the 8K in Atlanta for
Yep.
set
Mhm.
three,
Yep.
um, I think, besides just also being sick, a little bit sick that weekend, like
Yeah.
the I think all the pressure I kind of like put on myself, built up all the way to that weekend and really kind of put like a hammer down on me. And that was like the first time, since the beginning of set two that I kind of like abandoned, my favorite deck, red purple, and I was like, all right, I'm playing red blue. And I think it was just me more so, and I see when I look back and see like how I made that transition and like did a hard pivot, it really just came down to like, okay, if I play red blue and I'm learning red blue and I do bad, then there was no pre like,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
not your deck. It's not like you have that fallback, right? That, oh, I'm not supposed to be an expert and the best player on
yeah,
this deck. So if I don't do perform a certain level, then that's okay, right? Yeah. No, I get that trap. I
e-
understand that.
exactly. And it's like,
Hmm.
and I mean, even still now, I think I can't think of a single weekend at this point where, leading up to a weekend of a tournament, even if it's like a set champs, where I'm not thinking a couple of days beforehand, like, do I actually want to go to this thing? Can I go to this thing? Like, maybe I'd hold off on this one, playing another one down the road, just because
Yeah.
it's like you just feel like all this like anxiousness of expectations and
Right. Yeah.
and
And at a certain point, you just have that feeling of dread. And it's like, is it even worth it at
yeah.
this point? Like, yeah, no, I've totally been there at many events. Um, yeah. I'd say the interesting thing for me is it's almost reverse of you. I mean, obviously, you had that super good stretch there where you like topped a couple big tournaments early on or whatever. And maybe that just kind of ascended you to that level of pressure or whatever you were saying. But for me, I was just constantly feeling anxious and pressure a lot more all the way throughout the game. Really, it hasn't really started to taper off until like the last set, probably. Like my good showing at the Southside Games where I got fourth or whatever it was.
Mhm.
Um, that really felt like getting a big chip off my shoulder and like a weight, because like, we put in all this time and energy into the game, and obviously I've had performances at set champs and I did well at that CCS at 8K or whatever, but at the end of the day, it feels a lot of the times like if you don't win, then nobody cares.
Yeah, yeah,
DLCs, CCS, whatever it is, nobody really knows your name unless you win. And maybe nobody ever will know my name or your name because I only got fourth or whatever. But being able to do that and consistently done well at a couple big tournaments with very accomplished players really was like, okay, I know that I've achieved a level of consistency and skill within this game that if I never won another game because of luck or variance or a bad deck build or a bad bring on a certain day, I would feel okay with myself, not just super disappointed and like I wasted my time or my family's time. They sacrifice time with me for me
Yeah.
to go do these things. So all that stuff weighs on me when I'm trying to prepare for tournaments and do well and, put all this extra expectation and pressure on myself. So I'm glad that I'm finally in a place where like this weekend I really like, I expect myself to do well. I expect myself to do well all the time just because I'm experienced at the game. I know what I play and, all that good stuff. But if something happened and it just wasn't my day and I got bad breaks or whatever, I would be totally fine just cheering on my friends and hoping that they
Yeah.
do well instead. And I wouldn't feel that overwhelming sense of defeat like I did at the DLC. So that might be a different story when the
Mhm.
DLCs come back. If I continue to underperform at those, then we might be back in the same boat because of all of the monetary expenses involved and everything that leads up to those. But for set champs and all the more run of the mill tournaments or whatever you want to call them, I've been feeling much better, and I think it's helped improve my play quite a bit. Honestly, just not having that initial 5 minutes before every match starts when we're waiting on
Yeah.
pairing or whatever, where I'm ramping myself up like, oh man, I hope I get the right match, I hope I get this, I hope I get that, where I'm just like, whatever it is, I feel super confident that I'm going to play well against it, and if they beat me, they beat me. But it's really helped me kind of maintain my ability to think clearly and make the right decisions. I think that certainly can be hampered by anxiety and stress and all the negative things that come with that, right? It
Hmm.
wears you down more than you might think. And that will inevitably cause you to make different decisions than you would in ideal, comfortable circumstances.
Yeah. No, most definitely. And I mean, like, even like for myself during the most recent SSG, what was it, like a 10K, the one that you did
Yeah.
like top four.
Yep.
Of course, I'm going into it with a color combination that people are saying is dead, can't be played anymore, and so I'm like have this strategy I put together, this idea, and I'm like, okay, let me try to do my best and try to get this to perform well. And I had a good run, and then it kind of started fizzling out. But definitely, I think I kind of put too much stress on myself during that event. It was like literally at the beginning of every single round. It was like I had to like self meditate for a second just because I just had so much importance for myself, like on every single round of like, I have to prove it. I have to prove it like every single round. And leading into this next one, the charity event is I've kind of like started shaving that away and started re like positioning like my perspective on what it is that I should actually like care about achieving. Because of course, like yes, I'm a very competitive person. Like I winning is fun. Everybody likes to win. Everybody likes to do well. Um, and I want to
I don't
do
care if I win. I just hate to lose. That's what I say. I don't mind winning. I hate losing
yeah, exactly. I feel that. Yeah, the Ricky Bobby mindset, man. Like
though.
if you're not first,
Yeah.
you're last. Like it feels
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so of course like I want to do well, but like my mindset going into this new weekend to try to mitigate and not like feel so stressed during like the whole event
Yeah.
is just thinking, because so back in set 2 when I did well, I kind of like had this like internal goal be set after all of that where I'm like I want to be the best like Ruby Amethyst player in the world, right? Like I just felt that way.
Sure.
I was like, I want to be the
Yeah.
best at this deck in like the whole world. And of course, like I didn't have the resources to like go and really play all the DLCs, which would have been great. But because like I put so much pressure on myself, and then like the CCS event happened, and I switched to red blue, and then I started playing like other decks and really like straying away from red purple because I just built this like giant mountain like of a goal on my back, and I felt like almost like like had like imposter syndrome
Oh, sure.
of like,
Yeah, and I mean, it's just an unrealistic expectation as well in a card game, right?
you know,
There's only so much that's within your power to control, and you might be the best red purple player on the planet that plays Lorcana. It might be true, but you'll never have enough games against other players to really say that definitively. I mean, obviously, Ed or, Kindle or somebody would probably be able to make that claim just because they've achieved it. But if you were given the same amount of opportunities or, had the same luck on the same day, there's no, there's nothing to say that it couldn't have been you. And I think that's a struggle that a lot of players deal with. And it's
yeah,
a super hard thing to kind of balance and figure out, is Ed just better than me? Is he better than me because of this or that? Or did he just have better variance and the better matchup spread? Or, all of these kinds of things that can just eat away at you mentally and make you think that, you're not as good when it may have had nothing to do with your level of play. It could have just been fortuitous or bad luck on that particular day or event or whatever that led you to underperform what you wanted for yourself.
yeah, and and for that, the last SSG event, I just want to, I have like so much appreciation for you and John and everybody else because yeah, of course, like at the end of the day, I still had a ton of fun. At the end of the day, like I love like rooting on you guys and seeing you guys do so well. Um, but because of like my performance and everything, like of course there was a little bit of that like defeat, that like defeated feel. But you, John, everybody else was like, hey, you actually did well. It's just these certain things lined up and kind of like messed you up on your path, and it just
Right.
happens. But it's not a knock on your play ability. It's not a knock on the deck that you built and what you were trying to do. It's just
Yep.
that's just kind of how it lined up on the day. And I think it's like hard to keep that perspective when it's happening, but then like afterwards you
For
think
sure.
about it and it's a little bit better. But then also like I think it's good that we get so many big events and so many awesome players that we can continuously watch at these events. And obviously I want them all to do great and perform well and win as much as they can, but ultimately everybody can't do that. So sometimes
Yep.
almost like in a way you can see somebody like a Zan or whoever else, you know, not be able to make top cut at an event and be able to go, you know what? That's an example I should use for
Exactly.
a perspective to go, you know what? You could literally be seen as one of the best players in the world, like
Hmm.
regardless of deck, and it just doesn't pan out for you that for that day. And
Yep.
when it's a game like Lorcana, like it has that variance, so you just kind of have to play the best of your ability. Hopefully get the matchups you want, like and these things to line up for you, and just play as clean as you possibly can. But
Exactly. Yeah, we
and yeah,
signed up for a bad thing if we have anxiety issues, but it is what it is. Like, in a lot of sports, you're the one that controls the outcome, right? Your body is what,
yeah,
dictates your performance, and you'll beat somebody else if you're better than them. That ain't always the case in cards. And yeah, that can be certainly a difficult thing to
yeah.
deal with when you already struggle with, stress and anxiety and stuff, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like even yeah, like you said, thinking about that perspective, like because in a lot of things that I have been competitive in, not in like a public sense, but whether it's like fighting games or video games are also like a lot of the same thing where it's like
For sure.
your
Yeah.
skill, your reflexes, your knowledge will trump anybody that is slightly less than you in any of those categories. So it's like you
Yep.
kind of get used to, oh, I've grinded, I've played so much that like of course like I'm more likely to beat this person or this team or whatever X amount of times. And then you come into, a card game for the first time, and that's like out of the window. Like there's
Yep.
very there's very few card games. Maybe you have like Flesh and Blood and stuff, but there's very few card games where it's so low variance that
Right.
99% of the time the person that's more skilled wins. It's just it
Yeah.
if you're evenly matched, it could go, based on a ton of different things. And then even people that are
Mhm.
new to the game have the ability to, to beat somebody that is, well versed and well experienced. And, while that can be something that generates anxiety, I think it's like something you have to like put the perspective in your head of, that should be seen as, kind of something that makes these games exciting rather than something that kind of causes, that inner like stress and turmoil with yourself.
Yeah. I agree.
And and then also kind of another thing I wanted to add was like I think if you're somebody that's a content creator or just somebody that likes being engaged with the community, that in a sense like being somebody that is a pillar in the community in many cases can honestly be better than being like the best player, right? Like I
For
look
sure.
up to a lot of creators, outside of just Lorcana. Like one that I always kind of circle around is the professor, with the Tulare Community College for Magic, and just seeing like how influential, how huge of a pillar in the community of Magic he is, and like his whole thing is like, I'm not the most skilled player, but I
Right.
have this resource, I have this platform, I have all of this that can bring a lot of positivity and a lot of like good to the community. And for me, I kind of like have started to find more ways to think about this game and think about my position in this game in that way. Like, okay, like yes, my I would love to be the best, seen as the best Ruby Amethyst player in the game, and I would love to be able to get to a point where I can give myself as many opportunities to like prove that as possible. But at the end of the day, if I can just be somebody that is like a positive pillar for, let's say Ruby Amethyst, but also like Lorcana in general, but like Ruby Amethyst, then the community can still, I can still get almost the same, satisfaction of being the best player as just being somebody
Yeah.
that like, hey, you're somebody that, gives us so much information for this because we all love to play this deck. You're somebody that's down to educate us or to keep, trying to find new ideas so that we can keep, even just playing the deck at all rather than, abandoning it or, whatever it may be. And so I've started to try to get a lot more fulfillment out of that to kind of help with the stress and the anxiety. So, just seeing other players like Zeke, shout out Zeke, like being able to see him take his, tweaked version of, this idea that I was working on and be able to make it to top 4. Like in a sense, I can almost like take pseudo like
Yeah.
vicariously live through that win and be like, you know what, as a red purple community, as all these players that love this deck and love playing this deck, like we can kind of like vicariously live through, when somebody like Zeke, goes out there and like kicks ass and kind of keeps it alive. And I think because of that and because of that kind of path, this set has done like pretty well for me in terms of community building and being able to reach more people and speak to a lot more people. So that's
Yeah.
definitely helped since the last SSG. So this new one coming up this weekend. I'm just gonna go in with, hey, I just want to have fun. I know I can play well. I know I can navigate what I have well, and I just gotta, you know, do my best to make sure that I can position myself to where the stars can align for me, and kind of do from that. And you know, win or loss, I think a lot of times, like even back in the past when I did have a ton of anxiety, it's like the moment you sit down. and you actually start slamming some cardboard on the table, it kind of helps, and like alleviates it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, once you actually start going through the motions, it usually starts to subside. But like I said, just that ramp up and ramp down time alone
Yeah.
can really wear on you over the course of a big tournament. Like, if it's just 3 games at locals, maybe it's not a big enough deal to make a difference. But
Mhm.
set champs or, even a larger tournament, 9 rounds, if you're doing that between every round, it's really, really hard to maintain the level
Yeah.
of concentration and focus you need to perform at a high level.
Yeah, especially if you're doing well and
Yep.
then run into a like one like if you're just doing well and you're just going through it and now it's like it just increasingly like ramps ramps ramps, or even like you're doing well and you get that first loss, like
Hmm.
trying to position yourself mentally to be like not let that loss like run into loss 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 like now a trail of losses, but instead be like, okay,
Yep.
I just have to keep my focus and all that. And typically, like that's uh, what what I can be like pretty good at. Um, is yeah, going like round one win and then round two loss and then just kind of climbing from there. But
Yep.
yeah, it
No,
can be
I'm right
tough.
there with you. And it's especially like, I mean, we could go into this for hours probably. There's just so much nuance, but yeah, I remember like some of my early performances or tournaments at like Dex and Dice and stuff like that when I was really just trying to get my feet under me and just get better at the game. uh I like had a really long streak of tournaments, maybe like 5 or 6, I don't know, it felt like every tournament where I would do the same exact pattern where I would like win, 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 and then lose.
Mm,
And, you know, and then I'm like, why? Why can I never win the fourth game? Like, is it me? Is it variant? Like, and it just starts to weigh on you when you start seeing patterns like that. And it's really, really can be tough to break out of those mindsets where you're just like, no, maybe it was something or maybe it wasn't, and it was just happenstance. And at the end of the day, you just do your best,
yeah,
and that's all you can really control. And if you get the bad matchup and you lose out, it happens to every single person in the game. Like you said, the best of the best lose tournaments. And you
yeah,
see them win, but I guarantee you, well, and that's kind of a whole other thing, but like the social media aspect of it, where people are quick to post their wins, but hardly ever post their losses, right? So you see all the highs, but you never see the lows of a lot of the people on social media. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I don't know if you do
same.
it, but yeah, exactly. Like if I
Yeah,
did well at locals or I did well at a tournament, I post about it. If I didn't, I'm probably not going to post about it. And,
yeah,
people that are friends or, might follow us might see that and be like, oh my God, they win every tournament they go to. No, we don't.
mm-mm.
We win a lot. We're good players. There's no question. But there's definitely that part of it can, kind of morph your opinion on what a good performance of a TCG player can or should be, right? And it's
Yeah,
like when you actually get to talk to these people, you're like, oh, okay, right here you see like Zans, he's 50-0 on a list, and you're like, oh my god, I'll never be able to do that. Like, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't, but it can really warp your mindset on what the expectation is. And I think that definitely goes a long way towards the kind of unhealthy relationship we have in our minds of expectations and all that.
yeah. No, most definitely. And yeah, like you said, I could probably, and we both, and could probably trail this off into a million different directions. But I just wanted to kind of just get, just kind of brush up on this conversation. We can definitely kind of
Yeah,
come back to it, at another time. But yeah, I just wanted to
I'd
kind
love
of
to.
have a quick convo,
And
and maybe it would be a cool idea to kind of have this conversation, but then bring up and be able to bring on some of these, other players, and, try to get
Yeah,
some, a notable name or two to kind of speak on their own. Because I do think it's one of
for
those
sure.
things where, like I said in the beginning, you feel alone in it, and you feel like you're the only one in the room dealing with it, and and then little do you know, it's like everybody's getting hit with like this wall and this
Right.
brick, and it's all to varying degrees and um, things like that. But
Yeah.
uh,
I do want to just give a couple quick tips or things for people that might be struggling with this that have helped me over my time dealing with it. One, first and foremost, in my opinion, is please don't hesitate to talk to a friend or family or whoever you have in your life that you feel like you can be open with and lean on. I know it can be hard at times to really feel comfortable talking about these things, and there's an unfortunate stigma around mental health that's just been there forever. But uh I hope that you do have somebody in your life that can help you with that. If you don't, you can reach out to us at our Twitter handles. I'm sure Terrace would be just as willing if you would rather talk to him than me. But if you need somebody, I'll be that person. And if you have somebody, I highly recommend you talk to that person. I mean, just as an example, like Terrace mentioned, he was kind of struggling a lot at that Southside Games tournament. I was right there with him, and we're very close friends at this point. And he didn't really let me know that he was really dealing with it that much. I could read a little bit that he was down on himself and stuff like that. But if he would have said, "Oh man, I'm really beating myself up. I had these expectations," I probably could have been there for him more and gone out of my way to try and support him more while he was struggling with that. And he's done it for me at times where I've needed somebody to vent to. So highly recommend that. And then, you know, see a mental health professional if it's really impacting your life. If it's just, I feel a little anxious, and then maybe you can just do simple breathing techniques or things like that to help calm yourself down. Once again, I'm not a doctor. There's all sorts of things you can find on the internet that can help with you kind of regulating your heart rate and things that can help reduce your stress and anxiety levels. But I highly recommend seeing a mental health professional if you are struggling with these things, if you can afford to, and you have the insurance for it and all that. I know that can be a whole nother can of apples or a can of worms, but
mm,
I highly recommend it if you can.
yeah, no, great. Yeah, great tips. And yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I've had to continue to remind myself or work on over time is, be open, be honest, and don't be afraid to lean on the people around you, just because you would be there for them, and let them lean on you as well. So yeah, definitely great conversation. And then also, like Mark was saying, if you ever have a moment and you want to like reach out to me or whoever else, please feel free to. Sometimes I can be a little slow responding, but I definitely will see it, and I definitely will respond. But yeah, so thank you guys for
I
watching.
just
If
want to
you
have one last thing, if you
go
can,
ahead, go
Terrace, real
ahead.
quick.
Yes, sir.
Uh, n- I would also implore anybody that plays TCGs, if you don't deal with these problems, or if you do, either way, just try and be mindful that, we're all people and we're all dealing with these sorts of things that we may not be open with you about. And maybe it can come across as being rude or antisocial or mean or something like that just because we're dealing with these things. And people read it a million different ways, so just try and be open-minded and mindful and friendly to your fellow Lorcana community
Yeah,
as much as you can. And that's it.
most definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's about the community. That's what it should be. I know we got a lot of craziness going on right now just because, we're not getting we're not getting any spoilers, we're not getting any news. So people are kind of antsy, kind of ticked off. And unfortunately, it kind of bounces around to where we point at each other, uh, instead of kind of coming together more. But hopefully, as a community, we can work on that. And I think it just takes videos like this, takes discussions like this, and just takes openness to get there. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed this. My name was Terrence Black. This is my buddy Mark Miller again. I will make sure to put our socials down below so you can follow us, reach out to us, anything regarding that. And yeah, thank you guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Hey, let us know about your experiences, or you know, if you want to also extend a handout to other people, or anything like that. Feel free to leave a comment down below. That would be much appreciated. So, uh, love you guys. All you guys are awesome. Much love to you, Mark, as well
Likewise.
for
Thank you, everybody,
giving
for
this
all the
convo.
support. It means the world to us. And take care.
Yeah, peace out. Awkward. My mouse just died. Love you guys. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Bye bye.